Holy sh**. This was a good episode. Last time I made a review of Helluva Boss, it was a negative one. But that definitely will not be the case this time, because this episode was amazing. Where do I even begin with this thing? I guess we'll start by looking at the plot.
Back off, you tuxedo-wearing fucks!
So this episode has a pretty straightforward plot. Two agents, who I'll be calling Team Rocket for the rest of this video, kidnap Moxie and Blitz to interrogate them. They work for an agency called Dorks, which is presumably some sort of government branch. Moxie and Blitz get gassed with a truth gas that makes them have a bad trip, which I'll talk more about in a minute. There's a B-story in the episode where Millie and Luna try to rescue Moxie and Blitz, and they eventually do after they have their trip. They immediately get surrounded by more Dorks agents, and then a massive fight ensues. Eventually, the IMP run out of options, and Team Rocket have them pinned against a wall. And just as they're about to shoot them, Stolas, in full demon form, swoops in to rescue them. So this is definitely a very strong plot for an episode, and there is just so much to unpack here, so let's just dive right into it.
What are you? I'm a Virgo.
I was actually worried how this episode was going to turn out in the beginning. As good as it ended up being, its first couple minutes didn't do a good job painting it that way. I mean, the very beginning was good. They wasted no time introducing Team Rocket, but that isn't a problem since more details about them are filled in throughout the episode. The real issue here was the interrogation scene. This scene felt like nothing but an excuse to squeeze some unfunny comedy out of Moxie and Blitz. I don't mind it too much since it provides decent exposition for Team Rocket. It also does a good job showing us that they're pretty pathetic as antagonists. And the comedy isn't all bad. I wasn't laughing at what Blitz and Moxie were saying, though. I was laughing more at Team Rocket's growing frustration and their complete inability to properly do an interrogation. However, even though this was one of the weakest points in the episode in my opinion, I still got some information out of it and laughed out loud at least a couple times, so that goes to show just how good this episode is. Anyways, after that slow scene, the episode really kicked it into high gear when they started with the acid trips.
Because you, my precious little bitch boy,
Stop it,
are
sir!
tripping balls!
So after failing a normal interrogation, Team Rocket decides to use some truth gas on Moxie and Blitz to get some answers out of them. Why they didn't do that first, I have no idea, but whatever. So Blitz and Mox start telling the truth. Moxie reveals that Millie pegging him is canon, and then they have drug-fueled visions. These trips vary by a lot. Moxie's is a dramatic opera, while Blitz's is just him walking around this strange, blurry hellscape in a clown outfit. However, both of them are jam-packed with details and character development. Let's talk about Blitz's first. I believe that Blitz's trip is a representation of his own inner turmoil, and it's being brought to light by depictions of people that exemplify it. Depictions of Moxie, Fizz, Stryker, and Verostica all call Blitz out on his weaknesses and shortcomings. Moxie says,
"You don't know what you are doing half the time, and you depend on me."
And Fizz says,
Tried the solo act, it didn't work out so well.
Stryker also says,
But you don't want to do things alone, Lizzo.
I think that these quotes are outlining Blitz's struggle with depending on others. Blitz desires to have people in his life. He needs the IMP to help him run his business, and he adopted a daughter. However, Blitz doesn't seem to want to admit this to himself, so he has a hard time warming up to people and treating them with respect. This crass behavior causes some people to leave him and others to resent him. This is explained when Verostica says,
Yet you still shove away anyone who gets too close until they resent you for being a selfish, shitty shit.
Verostica is actually spot on by saying this, because the people in Blitz's life do seem to kind of resent him. Well, for one, there's Verostica herself, who seems to hate Blitz because of how he treated her. And then there's Moxie, and also kind of Luna. Moxie often seems fed up with Blitz's antics, and there might be some actual resentment behind that annoyance he seems to have with Blitz. Luna seems to dislike Blitz as well, which I find kind of strange, since Luna is like the only person that Blitz seems to treat with any respect. Anyways, then we're shown a depiction of Stolas, and he says this to Blitz.
Are you afraid to love people, Blitzy?
This seems to be further hinting at the idea that Blitz is afraid to warm up to people and insists upon refusing to get close to them. I think it's also important to note that Stolas is sitting on top of this angelic staircase thing. I'm pretty sure that this is symbolism saying that Blitz actually has repressed feelings for Stolas, which is huge character development. Right after the Stolas depiction is done with Blitz, the Moxie depiction comes back and says this.
This is trying to tell you that you simply cannot fathom proper intimacy, but also craving as well. It's rather unfortunate, sir, considering it's often how you treat those who stand by you, such as myself.
Are you worried I may have enough of it one day as well?
This is saying two things. 1, he's accusing Blitz of being incapable of romance, and 2, he is stating what is probably one of Blitz's greatest fears, which is that one day he'll eventually have nobody, and it will be all his fault. After Moxie says this, Blitz gets angry. He yells for the depictions to stop talking to him, and then the vision begins to collapse. All the depictions turn into a golden dust, disappear into a whirlwind, and then wrap around Stolas. This is easily one of the most plot-heavy scenes that we've seen in Helluva Boss so far. It takes arguably the deepest dive that it possibly can into Blitz's character, because you really can't get much deeper than his own inner thoughts. It was very interesting to see what's actually going on inside the head of the enigma that is Blitz. Anyways, let's talk about the other trip, Moxie's opera.
But I'm in too deep, so first of all, fuck you!
In Moxie's opera, he's walking up a staircase towards Blitz, who's playing an organ on top. They both sing at each other as Moxie approaches, and together they sing a duet that's overflowing with character development. Moxie basically tells Blitz that the entire thing is his fault, and then, being the more rational one, figures out that he's probably messing with Blitz in his own trip.
Because if you're here causing frustration, I'm torturing you in your hallucination.
After cut to Blitz's trip, Moxie goes back to calling Blitz out for being a piece of garbage. As I watch this, I realize that these two trips seem heavily tied into one another, in the sense that they both tackle Blitz's character in some way. The difference being that in Moxie's trip, he's telling Blitz what he actually thinks of him,
Fuck you!
while in Blitz's own trip, he's dealing with his own thoughts. Another indicator that these trips are both connected to Blitz's character is what makes Blitz angry in Moxie's trip. While Moxie is chewing Blitz out, he says the line,
Because you're thoughtless and cruel and you'll end up alone!
This makes Blitz turn around to look at Moxie, and then the scene cuts back to Blitz's trip. Then later, the Moxie depiction asks him,
Are you worried I may have enough of it one day as well?
Moxie's trip ends with him reaching Blitz on the top of the staircase. Blitz admits to being a jackass, and they both make a promise to be more open and to be better friends to each other. This is a nice moment that perfectly sets up the emotional reconciliation scene that happens immediately after they wake back up. So, those are the trips. What did I think? Well, I really liked Blitz's because of the character development and lore it provided for him and the show, and I found Moxie's trip a little more boring because it just didn't have as much going on. I found Blitz's trip more interesting from an analytical and enjoyment standpoint. But this doesn't mean that Moxie's trip was bad. There were still several funny lines and some character development to pay attention to.
Do you remember what you said to me after my first day with the company? I remember.
Helpful, Moxie. Really glad you're in the room right now.
Anyways, what about that emotional moment that happens afterwards? Well, right after Blitz and Moxie are done tripping, Moxie reminds Blitz of a time when he gave him a compliment and thanked him for doing that instead of saying something rude like he probably normally would.
Do you remember what you said to me after my first day with the company?
Not really.
I remember. You told me I did a good job and that you were proud to work with me. I feel like you wanted to say something more judgmental, but you said that because I needed it. And it helped.
Then Blitz admits that he's only hard on Moxie because he knows his true capabilities, and then proceeds to give him several more compliments. He even tells him to not call him Sir, and to call him Blitz instead, like friends do.
Thank you, sir.
You know my name. Use it.
Thanks, Blitz.
This moment is a direct payoff of the trauma that Blitz and Mox just went through. It's almost like the trip shocked Blitz awake, and made him realize that he has to better himself, or he might actually end up alone. Or that his feelings would just eat him up on the inside until there's nothing left, which is just as bad. Either way, this trip made Blitz present his soft side, and it seems like it's here to stay out in the open. It even manifests itself later in the episode with Stolas, which I'll talk more about later. Anyways, immediately after this lovely moment, the A story of the episode with Blitz and Mox, and the B story of the episode with Millie and Luna meet up again.
Come on, let's find the dumbass twins.
Right, so the B story of this episode is Millie and Luna team up to save Moxie and Blitzo. They take a bunch of portals to the living world and massacre a bunch of Dorks agents in a really fun to watch montage. Then they make a TF2 reference.
Try one.
And crash through the ceiling of the interrogation room. Alright, so now all of our characters are reunited. What's gonna happen? Well, a ton of Dorks agents just pour into the room, and this sets up one of the most epic fight scenes in web television history.
Let's fuck these fuckers up!
So, are you all familiar with the third act of Avengers Endgame, where all the Marvel heroes fight Thanos' giant, disposable CGI army for 30 minutes? Well, just give that scene a time cut, replace all the Marvel heroes with IMP, replace Thanos' army with Dorks agents, and add in a water break, and boom, there you have the last third of this Helluva Boss episode. They even do that one scene where the camera takes one long, uncut pan over all the characters, showcasing their unique powers and abilities. This fight scene and camera angle looked great in Endgame, and they work surprisingly well here too. This scene is bloody excellent, and it's so great to see all the characters fight in their own unique styles, especially for Luna, a character that we've gotten to see fight a grand total of 0 times. Oh, and a real quick side note about Luna, this episode actually gave her enough character substance for me to enjoy seeing her on screen, which I never thought was going to happen. Hopefully this character development continues, and Luna doesn't fall back into the annoying, angsty teen trope that I disliked so much. Right, so now where was I? Oh yeah, the fight scene. Another thing that made it just perfect was the sheer amount of comedy that they put into this scene. There's physical comedy, jokes.
Good God, why are we only using weapons from Japan's Edo period?
Hey! The Edo period was badass, and you know it!
And a blink and you'll miss a gag or two. Despite that, the fight still keeps the badass and serious feeling, just like the Endgame fight. The creators somehow managed to blend these two extremely conflicting tones together really well. The whole thing just feels put together so perfectly. The whole scene is a great addition to the episode, and it raised my overall score from like a 4 to a 6. However, the thing that truly tied off the episode and propelled it way up past a 6 was the ending.
Stole it. Well, hold on.
Alright, so after the final battle, most of the Dorks agents are dead. Except for our good friends Team Rocket, of course. So they lock the whole facility down and trap the IMP inside. Again, kind of a delayed reaction there, guys. You could have done that much earlier, but whatever. So the IMP can't open a portal to escape since it's dark and they can't read the necessary spell. And Luna says the worst line of the whole episode.
Quick, the book! Shit, I can't read the spell in this light. I can't see dick!
The expression is see shit. Why did you feel the need to swap out the shit for a different swear word that doesn't even make any sense? Why would you... Okay, I'm getting sidetracked. So they can't escape with the book and no longer have weapons, so Team Rocket finally have the upper hand again. They close in with some guns, ready to shoot. So, how are the IMP gonna get out of this one? Well, we start hearing strange noises. Then thuds and bumps. The atmosphere turns tense. The haunting voice of a character that we thought was nothing but a sexy side piece echoes throughout the room. All that's left is to wait for him to arrive. Team Rocket Girl begins to twitch in an unearthly way, and the corpses in the room begin moving too. And they draw something on the floor. Suddenly, her head snaps the other way, and the same voice says,
What's the matter, Demon Hunter? Never seen a real demon before.
A black cloud spills out of Team Rocket Girl's mouth and begins to take shape, while a deranged cackle fills the air. It eventually turns into what looks like some type of giant, demonic bird. Then into an enormous, four-legged creature with the face of an owl. It shrieks at Team Rocket and gets only inches away from their faces. Then, in a gust of air, the creature turns into the familiar outline of Stolas. We have just seen one of his demon forms and the true power he actually possesses. This scene right here is easily the largest insight we've gotten into Stolas' power and also into final demon forms as a concept. Vivzy has previously mentioned that demons can change into a final, more powerful form, but this is the first time we've ever seen it in any of her work. I think its inclusion here was an excellent choice, because it really felt like a natural conclusion to the episode. I didn't watch it and feel like it was jammed in there for no reason. I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, Stolas yells at the IMP for getting themselves into trouble, and says that nobody will believe Team Rocket because, well, would you? Then Stolas returns them home, and he and Blitz make out. Although, for once, Blitz actually doesn't seem reluctant to this. As a matter of fact, it's him who offers.
Well, I suppose you should. Want me to fuck your brains out tonight?
Very much so.
Alright, but you're keeping quiet or I'm using those bear traps.
Oh, please do.
This shows us two things. One, Stolas is indisputably canon now. I hope you're happy, shipping community. And two, it's showing us that the trip had a lasting effect on Blitz. This is showing us that Blitz is probably going to start being a more open person and will stop being afraid to warm up to people, at least a little bit. This is huge character development, and I couldn't be happier about it. Hats off to Viv and her team for finally showing us something this meaningful. Anyways, this scene isn't the end of the episode though, because Team Rocket are somehow still alive, even though this girl should totally be dead.
I diagnose you with dead.
After the portal closes, we are shown that Team Rocket are still alive and still have their brains intact, and they still have some surviving camera footage of the IMP massacring their men and Stolas coming in to save them. How they still even have any of this footage after Stolas wrecked all the TVs, I don't know. Hell, I don't even know why Stolas let these two idiots live. I guess it was purely for story purposes, so they could set up the cliffhanger that Team Rocket still have some surviving footage and can now show to the rest of the mortal world. So, what does this mean for the rest of the series? My guess is that Team Rocket is going to show the rest of the mortal world and it's going to throw a huge wrench into the IMP's business because everyone will be on the lookout. It's going to be interesting to see how that impacts the future of the show, and maybe it'll even lead to the finale episode or something. Anyways, that's the whole episode. So what did I think of the whole thing? This episode was fantastic. Seriously, I would say that it's almost on par with Lululand. When that tweet came out a few months ago saying that Viv and her crew needed more time to make the episode, I knew it was going to be a great one, but I didn't know how great it was going to be, and this sure didn't disappoint. This episode has almost nothing wrong with it. The only two things that come to mind when I think of things that are flaws is that Moxie's trip went on for just a little too long, and the fact that Stolas let Team Rocket live. But those things are so minuscule that they're barely worth mentioning in this video. This episode is easily an 8 out of 10. Maybe it's even a 9 out of 10. Here's what it looks like put up against the other ones, by the way. The only episodes that top it are my two all-time favorites, which are Lululand and Harvest Moon Festival. But man, does this one get close. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. This video took a long time to make. Well over 15 hours of editing went into it, but it was worth every second. I simply had to sing my praises for this episode. Anyways, be sure to subscribe, comment, like, and share the video around. Bye.